The signal from nowhere. The first message arrived on a Tuesday. Dr. Elena Moss sat in the cramped observation room of the Kepler array, nursing her third cup of coffee and watching data streams crawl across 6 different monitors. Outside the reinforced windows, the massive radio dishes pointed toward empty space, listening for voices that probably didn't exist. She had been doing this job for 8 years. 8 years of silence, static, and the occasional burst of cosmic noise that turned out to be a pulsar or a dying star. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence had become less of a search and more of a very expensive way to feel alone in the universe. Then the pattern appeared. At first, Elena thought it was a glitch. The signal came from a region of space where nothing should exist, no stars, no planets, just the cold dark between solar systems. But the waveform was too clean, too precise. It repeated every 47 seconds, a mathematical sequence that made her heart race. She ran it through the analysis software 3 times. Each time, the result was the same. This was artificial. Elena's hands shook as she reached for the emergency contact protocol. Within an hour, the observation room was crowded with people. Dr. Ramon from cryptography stood hunched over a laptop, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Colonel Hayes from the Space Force watched the monitors with the intensity of a predator. Director Chen paced behind them all, phone pressed to her ear as she coordinated with officials Elena had never heard of. "It's definitely a message," Ramon said, his voice tight with excitement. "The mathematical structure is too complex to be natural. Whoever sent this wanted to be heard. Can you decode it?" Chen asked. Ramon pulled up a visualization on the main screen. The signal transformed into a 3-dimensional lattice of glowing points, rotating slowly in the darkness. "It's not a language, at least, not like ours. It's more like coordinates. Instructions. A map." Colonel Hayes leaned forward. "A map to what?" "To them." Ramon tapped a key, and a single point blazed red in the center of the lattice. "This is where the signal originated. And this," he highlighted another point, much closer, "is where they want us to go." The room fell silent. Elena stared at the coordinates. They pointed to a location at the edge of the solar system, beyond Neptune, in a region where only a few scattered rocks and ice chunks drifted through the void. Nobody had ever found anything interesting there. "How far?" Chen asked quietly. "With current propulsion technology?" 9 months, maybe 10, Hayes said. "But we'd need to retrofit one of the deep space vessels. That's a massive undertaking." "We don't have a choice," Elena heard herself say. Everyone turned to look at her. She swallowed hard but continued. "This is first contact. This is what we've been searching for since we looked up at the stars. We can't just ignore it." Chen studied her for a long moment. "You're right. But understand what you're asking. This isn't just a scientific mission anymore. If we go out there, we're representing all of humanity. And we have no idea what we're walking into. Then we prepare," Hayes said. "We send a small crew. Scientists, engineers, security. We go in with our eyes open and our guard up." Over the next 3 months, the mission came together with terrifying speed. The Prometheus, a deep space research vessel designed for asteroid mining, was pulled from mothballs and retrofitted. New engines, new shielding, new communication arrays. The crew was selected from volunteers, 12 people willing to leave Earth behind and venture into the unknown. Elena was one of them. The day before launch, she stood in the observation deck of the orbital station, watching Earth turn slowly below. The blue marble that held everyone she'd ever known, everyone she'd ever loved. 8 billion people who had no idea that tomorrow, a dozen of their own would cross the threshold into something bigger. Having second thoughts. She turned to find Marcus Webb, the mission's engineer, standing beside her. He was young, barely 30, with the kind of optimism that hadn't been beaten out of him by years of disappointment. "Just thinking about what happens if we're wrong," Elena said. What if it's not friendly? What if we're walking into a trap? Marcus smiled. Then at least we'll know. That's better than spending the rest of our lives wondering. He paused. Besides, humans are good at one thing, surviving. Whatever's out there, we'll figure it out. The next morning, the Prometheus detached from the station with a gentle thud that Elena felt through the deck plates. The engines fired, and Earth began to shrink behind them. As they crossed the orbit of Mars, the second message arrived. It was shorter than the first. Just 3 words, translated by the AI into English. We are waiting. The edge of everything. The Prometheus crossed the orbit of Jupiter on day 43. Elena stood in the observation bay, watching the gas giant's swirling storm slide past in silence. The ship hummed around her, life support, engines, the constant whisper of recycled air. After 6 weeks in the black, these sounds had become her heartbeat. Beautiful, isn't it? Commander Sarachan floated up beside her, magnetic boots clicking softly as they engaged with the deck. The mission commander was a veteran of 3 Mars expeditions, calm in a way that made everyone else feel safer. Terrifying, Elena corrected. We're so small out here. That's what makes us brave. Chen smiled. Small things that refuse to stay small. The crew had fallen into a rhythm. Marcus spent his days in the engine room, coaxing every bit of efficiency from the retrofitted drives. Dr. Yuki Tanaka monitored the biological systems, making sure the algae tanks and protein synthesizers kept them fed. Lieutenant James Park ran security drills that everyone pretended weren't about possible combat scenarios. And Elena listened to the signal. It had grown stronger as they traveled outward, evolving from a whisper to a clear, steady pulse. The mathematical patterns shifted daily, becoming more complex. Rahman, back on Earth, sent decryption updates through the tight beam laser link, but even he admitted they were guessing. It's like they're teaching us their language, he said during one call, his face pixelated and delayed by the light minutes between them. Each message builds on the last. They want us to understand. Or they're downloading something into our systems, Park muttered from across the bridge. Elena couldn't argue with that. Every night, she ran diagnostics on the communication arrays, searching for intrusions. So far, nothing. But the fear lingered. On day 72, they crossed into uncharted territory. The coordinates pointed to a region beyond Neptune's orbit, in the scattered debris field of the Kuiper Belt. Long-range scans showed nothing unusual, just rocks and ice, tumbling through the endless dark. But the signal was deafening now, so powerful that it interfered with their navigation systems. We're close, Marcus announced, adjusting their approach vector. Whatever's generating that signal, it's within 10 million kilometers. Chen ordered the crew to stations. Elena felt her pulse quicken as she strapped into her seat on the bridge. Through the forward viewport, space looked the same as it always did, black, empty, infinite. Then the sensors caught something. Contact, Park said sharply. Bearing 270, range 8 million clicks. It's big. The main screen flickered to life, displaying the enhanced image. Elena's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't a ship. It was a structure. The object hung in space like a monument to impossible geometry. Massive hexagonal panels formed a sphere nearly a kilometer across, each panel etched with patterns that glowed with soft blue light. Thin spires extended from the poles, crackling with energy that bent the starlight around them. My God, Yuki whispered. Is it a station? A satellite? Chen asked. It's a beacon, Elena said, her voice distant. The mathematical patterns in the signal suddenly made sense. It's been broadcasting for us. Waiting for us. Marcus brought the Prometheus to a stop 300 kilometers from the structure. Up close, the scale became even more overwhelming. The hexagonal panels were each the size of a football field, seamlessly joined without visible seams or welds. Whatever built this had technology far beyond humanity's reach. Any signs of life? Chen asked. Park shook his head. No thermal signatures, no movement. But there's definitely power running through it. That energy field around the spires is giving off readings I've never seen before. We need to go closer, Elena said. Everyone looked at her. I know how it sounds, she continued. But we came all this way. We can't just take pictures and leave. If there's any chance of communication, of learning. She's right. Chen's voice was steady. We take the shuttle. Small team. Elena, Marcus, Park, and myself. The rest of you stay on the Prometheus and keep the engines hot. If something goes wrong, you burn for home and warn Earth. Yuki's face went pale, but she nodded. 30 minutes later, Elena found herself strapped into the shuttle, watching the Prometheus shrink behind them. The beacon grew larger through the forward window, its blue light washing over the shuttle's hull like ghostly fire. Approaching main structure, Marcus reported, his hands steady on the controls. No response to our hails. They drifted closer, until the hexagonal panels filled the entire viewport. Up close, Elena could see the patterns weren't just decorative, they were circuits, pathways of light flowing in precise sequences. A technological mandala written in a language of pure energy. There, Park pointed. That looks like an entrance. One of the panels had separated slightly, revealing a dark opening just large enough for the shuttle. Lights blinked along its edges, green, welcoming, unmistakably deliberate. They're inviting us in, Chen said quietly. Marcus looked at her. Orders. Elena watched the commander's face. She saw the fear there, carefully controlled. She saw the weight of responsibility for 12 lives, for the entire human species. And she saw the same hunger for knowledge that had driven Elena to this moment. Take us in, Chen said. The shuttle slipped through the opening into darkness. For a moment, nothing existed except the hum of their engines and the sound of 4 people breathing too fast. Then the lights came on. They were in a chamber so vast that Elena's mind struggled to process the scale. Walls stretched upward and outward, covered in alien technology, crystalline structures, flowing energy conduits, devices whose purpose defied understanding. At the center of it all, suspended in mid-air by nothing visible, was a sphere of pure white light. And as they watched, the sphere began to change. It pulsed. Shifted. Took shape. When it finished, a figure stood in the light. Humanoid, but clearly not human. Tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shift between silver and blue. Its eyes, if they were eyes, glowed with the same soft radiance as the beacon's panels. The being raised one hand in what might have been a greeting. Then it spoke. The words came not through sound, but directly into Elena's mind, bypassing her ears entirely. Welcome, children of Earth. We have been waiting for you for a very long time. The choice. Time stopped having meaning. Elena didn't know if seconds or hours had passed since the being spoke. The white light pulsed gently, and the figure within remained perfectly still, waiting for a response that none of them could give. Finally, Commander Chen found her voice. Who are you? The being tilted its head, a gesture so human it was unsettling. When it spoke again, the words formed directly in their minds, carrying emotions that no spoken language could convey, patience, curiosity, and something that felt like sadness. We are the archivists. We have watched your species since you first looked up at the stars and wondered if you were alone. Marcus gripped the shuttle controls so hard his knuckles turned white. You've been watching us. For how long? 50,000 of your years. We have watched you survive ice and fire. We have watched you build and destroy. We have watched you reach beyond your world, driven by the same question that drives all young species, are we alone? Park's hand moved to his sidearm, though Elena knew it would be useless. Why reveal yourselves now? The being moved for the first time, raising both hands. The chamber around them came alive with light. Images appeared on the crystalline walls, not pictures, but windows into other places, other times. Elena saw Earth from space. She saw ancient humans huddled around fires. She saw the first cities, the first ships, the first rockets clawing their way into orbit. She saw war and peace, creation and destruction, the entire chaotic beautiful history of humanity playing out in accelerated time. Because you have reached the threshold, the archivist said. Every intelligent species arrives at this moment. The moment when they must choose what they will become. Choose. Elena stepped forward, ignoring Chen's warning hand on her shoulder. What choice? The images shifted. Now they showed other beings, aliens from 100 different worlds. Some looked like the archivist, slender and graceful. Others were so strange that Elena's mind struggled to comprehend them. But all shared something, they moved among the stars as easily as humans walked on Earth. The choice to join the greater community, the archivist explained. You are not alone in the universe. Thousands of species have walked the path you walk now. Most choose to take the next step. Some do not. What happens to those who refuse? Chen asked quietly. The images darkened. Elena saw worlds burning, civilizations collapsing, species tearing themselves apart with weapons that made nuclear bombs look like children's toys. Isolation is a slow death. Species that refuse the greater community inevitably destroy themselves. Fear, greed, and violence consume them when they have no greater purpose to unite them. That's not fair, Marcus said, anger breaking through his fear. You can't just threaten us into joining your club. It is not a threat. It is observation. In 50,000 years, we have never seen it happen differently. The archivist's tone shifted, became almost gentle. But you are different. Humanity has surprised us before. Perhaps you will again. Elena felt her scientific mind racing, trying to process everything. What does joining mean? What would we have to give up? Nothing that matters. You would retain your culture, your identity, your freedom. You would gain knowledge, science beyond your current understanding. Medicine that could end disease. Technology that could heal your world. And most importantly, you would gain purpose. A place among the stars. Park shook his head. There's always a cost. What aren't you telling us? The archivist was silent for a long moment. Then the chamber shifted again, and Elena saw something that made her heart sink. It was Earth. But not the Earth she knew. This Earth was transformed, massive orbital structures surrounded it, cities gleamed across every continent, the deserts bloomed green. It was beautiful. Perfect. And utterly alien. The cost is change, the archivist said simply. You cannot remain as you are and reach the stars. Humanity must evolve, must grow beyond the tribal instincts that have served you on one world but will destroy you among many. This transformation takes time. Generations. But it is necessary. You're talking about changing who we are, Chen said. Our nature. Our humanity. I am talking about becoming more than you are. Every species that joins us faces this same fear. And every species that makes the choice discovers they do not lose themselves, they find themselves. Elena stared at the transformed Earth. Part of her wanted it desperately, the end of suffering, the mysteries of the universe laid bare, humanity taking its place among the stars. But another part recoiled from the cost. How many wars had been fought over who got to define what humanity should be? How long do we have to decide, she asked. As long as you need. The beacon will remain here, broadcasting, waiting. When humanity is ready, when you are truly ready, return to this place. We will be here. The white light began to fade. The archivist's form grew transparent. But know this, the universe is vast and often cruel. Other species have made different choices than we offer. Not all will welcome you with open hands. The longer you wait, the more vulnerable you become. Wait. Elena called out. If we say yes, what happens first? What's the first step? The archivist smiled, or something like a smile. You have already taken it. You came here. You listened. You asked questions instead of firing weapons. Humanity has promise, Elena Moss. Do not waste it. The light vanished. The chamber went dark except for the shuttle's running lights. The being was gone, leaving only silence and the weight of impossible decisions. Chen was already moving. Marcus, get us back to the Prometheus. Now. The return journey passed in stunned silence. When they docked, the rest of the crew crowded around, demanding answers. Chen waved them off and headed straight for communications. This message goes to Earth immediately, she said. Priority Alpha. What we found, what we learned, what we were offered. Then we let the people who are smarter than us figure out what the hell we do next. Elena found herself back in the observation bay, watching the beacon shrink in the distance as the Prometheus began the long journey home. Marcus joined her, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. Think they'll say yes? He asked, offering her a cup. I don't know. Should they? Marcus was quiet for a long time. My grandmother used to say that staying safe means staying small. Maybe it's time we stopped being small. Elena sipped her coffee, thinking about 8 billion people on one fragile blue world, staring up at stars that were no longer empty. Thinking about a choice that would define not just a generation, but the entire future of their species. We're going to argue about this for years, she said. Marcus grinned. That's the most human thing we could possibly do. Below them, the engines fired, carrying them home with questions that would change everything. And far behind, in the cold dark between worlds, the beacon continued to broadcast its patient, eternal message. We are waiting.